My name is Marcos Echevarne, and I drive a water tanker for remote forestry work. It's not fuel, just water for crews operating far from any supply. It's monotonous work, but the schedules are strict. On September 3rd, I was assigned a secondary route west of Willow Creek, using a detour that almost no one takes after sunset. I left late. At 6:40 p.m., I was still loading when I should have already been on the road. I went anyway. I knew the route. Gravel, tight curves, dense forest on both sides. There was no cell signal after kilometer 5. Around 7, with the sun low and long shadows crossing the road, I slowed down at a sharp bend. That's when something crossed in front of the truck. It didn't jump. It didn't run. It walked. I slammed on the brakes. The water inside the tank surged violently. The figure crossed from the left side of the road to the right in 3 long steps. It was over 2 meters tall. Its posture wasn't animal. The torso was upright, shoulders pitched slightly forward, as if carrying invisible weight. The fur was dark, almost black, catching the fading light in uneven clumps. It stopped on the right shoulder and turned its head slightly. I didn't see its eyes clearly, but I felt the focus. Not curiosity, assessment. My first instinct was to honk the horn. I didn't. Something in its stillness stopped me. Silence settled in again, even with the engine running. The air felt unmoving. I crept forward, trying to pass without provoking it. When the front of the truck drew level with the figure, it stepped forward and struck the side of the tank. It wasn't a shove, it was a sharp, deliberate blow. The truck rocked. I heard the metal vibrate. I braked instinctively. Big mistake. The creature moved around the front of the vehicle with shocking speed. I felt another impact, higher this time, near the mirror. The glass exploded inward. Shards cut my face and neck. I floored it. The truck responded slowly, heavy. As it picked up speed, something landed on the rear. I didn't see what it was, but the sound of the tank deforming was unmistakable. The steering wheel shook as if it might tear loose. I didn't check the mirrors. I focused on keeping control until I reached a long, straight stretch. After a few seconds that felt like minutes, the weight vanished. The road was empty again. I reached the base almost an hour later. The tank had a deep dent, impossible to explain as a minor collision. The supervisor talked about vandalism, falling branches. I didn't argue. Since that day, I don't take shifts after 6. The Kettenhorn detour is still on the map. I avoid it.
I don't usually tell this in detail, because every time I start, people try to organize what happened, give it logic, put a name to it. I don't have one. I only remember how it felt. I was alone in the forest, in an area where the river runs low and the trees grow so close together that light takes time to reach the ground. I had spent the day walking, stopping here and there, doing what I needed to do. At dusk, I set up the tent without any rush. The place felt calm, too calm maybe. I slept poorly from the beginning, not out of fear, out of that subtle discomfort of feeling that the space doesn't fully belong to you. I woke up several times without knowing why. In one of those moments, already deep into the night, I heard footsteps. They weren't heavy. They weren't fast either. They were careful, as if whatever was moving knew exactly where to place its weight to avoid making noise. They weren't coming toward me. They were moving around me. I stayed completely still, holding my breath. The sound stopped. The silence that followed was worse. When morning came, I stepped out of the tent with that bitter feeling in my stomach. I checked the area and found nothing obvious. No clear tracks, no broken branches. But something had changed. I noticed it immediately. The place didn't feel the same, as if it had been rearranged while I slept. Later, looking over what I had left out during the night, I saw the first image that made me doubt everything. The figure appeared from the background, partially covered by shadow. It didn't rush in. It entered the frame as if it had always been there. It walked upright with a naturalness that didn't match any animal I knew. Not hurried, not cautious, confident. It stopped in front of the device. It didn't touch it. It didn't examine it. It simply stood still. The most disturbing part wasn't its size or its shape or the way the hair lay unevenly across its body. It was the pause, that deliberate stillness, as if it knew it was being observed and chose to allow it for a few seconds. Then it turned its head, not toward the camera, toward me. That night, I didn't go back into the tent. I sat with my back against a tree, my flashlight off, listening. The forest felt strangely ordered. No misplaced sounds, no nocturnal animals. I saw it not long after. Not close, far enough that I didn't feel attacked, but near enough that I couldn't deny it. It stood between the trees, barely outlined by the remaining light in the sky. It didn't move. It didn't hide. I didn't feel aggression. I felt evaluation, as if I were the unfamiliar element. We stayed that way, separated by darkness for a stretch of time I couldn't measure. Finally, it took one step back, then another. No sound, no urgency. The forest closed in again. The next morning, I left. I didn't leave a note. I didn't explain anything. Some experiences aren't recorded. They're simply respected. I hadn't planned to stop there. The forest road was almost empty, and dusk was already settling in. There was a wide curve, one of those where gravel builds up and forces you to slow down. I saw the space and pulled over just to tighten the load in the back. It was supposed to take 2 minutes. When I stepped out, the forest felt wrong. Not completely silent, but restrained, as if the sounds had pulled back a few meters into the trees. I tightened one strap, then another, and that's when I heard the first impact. It didn't come from behind. It came from the right, from the tree line. A hard strike against the vehicle door, strong enough to make the metal vibrate. I thought a branch had fallen. I moved closer, cautiously. The second hit was higher, against the roof. That's when I knew it wasn't something I could explain quickly. I took a step back. I didn't shout. I didn't run. I looked up and saw it moving between the trunks, advancing without hurry. It was big, too big. The head barely stood out from the rest of the body. It looked like a compact mass of muscle and dark, uneven, filthy hair. The arms hung long, but when it walked, they bent slightly, as if it knew exactly how much space it occupied. I tried to get back into the vehicle. I didn't make it. I felt the shove from behind, brutal, straight into my back. I dropped to my knees on the gravel. The air left my body all at once. Something heavy pressed down on my left shoulder, pinning me. There was no roar, no growl, just force applied with precision. I twisted as best I could and saw the arm pass in front of my face. It wasn't an animal's claw. They were long fingers, closing. The smell was what snapped me into motion. Dampness, old earth, something metallic. I managed to roll to the side when it lifted the weight for a second. I dragged myself until I was half under the vehicle. Another blow came, this time against the side, so hard the car rocked. The sound was unlike anything I'd heard before, metal deforming under something that didn't hesitate. I thought it was going to flip the vehicle. From the ground, I saw the legs pass in front of me. They weren't running, they were circling. Every step was measured. A hand reached underneath, feeling around. It closed in empty air just centimeters from my boot. I don't know where the strength came from. I crawled out the other side, got up however I could, and ran toward the road without looking back.
I heard footsteps behind me for a few seconds. Then they stopped. It didn't chase me. That was the worst part, because I understood that it could have. I reached the first place with a signal and called for help without explaining much. When I returned with others, the vehicle had deep marks in the bodywork, and the windshield was cracked from above, as if something heavy had rested a hand there. The curve is still there, the forest, too. I don't stop anymore on roads where the forest can get that close.
I never believed fear had texture. I always thought it was a quick reaction, an impulse. That night, I understood it can also be something that settles on you slowly, like a heavy hand that never fully tightens. I was walking alone along an old stretch of trail, one of those that no longer appears on signs but is still traced by time. The slope on my left rose steeply. On the right, the forest dropped away into a dense decline. It was already late, but I misjudged the distance and decided to keep going. The first sound came from above. It wasn't a clear footstep. It was something moving through loose stones, controlling the descent. I stopped, thinking it was an animal. I waited. The sound came again, a little closer, then another from farther back, as if it had corrected its position. That's when I knew it wasn't coming down at random. I picked up my pace. The trail narrowed and the vegetation began to close in. A stone struck the ground near my foot. It didn't roll, it fell from above. The next impact hit my shoulder. It wasn't strong, but it was precise. I looked toward the slope and saw it. Not all at once. First the movement, then the shape. It was descending diagonally, using the terrain with an impossible ease. It didn't slip, it didn't jump. It moved as if it knew every foothold by memory. The body was enormous, out of proportion with the space. The fur blended with the dark soil, except for lighter patches on the arms and chest. I tried to step back. The trail behind me no longer felt the same. I felt the blow to my back before I heard it. I fell forward, rolling down the incline. The air was knocked out of me. Something grabbed my ankle. It didn't pull right away. It adjusted its grip. I felt the fingers tighten with measured force, as if calculating how much to apply. I kicked, twisted, and managed to break free when it released for a fraction of a second. I ran downhill without control. I fell again. I rolled through branches and rocks until I slammed against a fallen trunk. When I looked up, it was there. Not on top of me, in front of me. It leaned in. It didn't smell like an animal. It smelled like closed forest, old dampness. One arm pressed against the trunk, splitting it with ease. The other moved toward my chest. Not to strike, to pin me. I didn't scream. I couldn't. In that moment, I heard another sound. Distant. An engine. Faint, but real. The arm stopped. The head turned slightly toward the road. The pressure vanished. It straightened slowly, stepped back once, then again. It didn't leave right away. It looked at me one last time, not with fury, with something I understood as a warning. Then it climbed back up the slope, without noise, without haste. It took a long time before I could move. When I finally reached the road, the sound of the engine was gone. No one saw anything. No one heard anything. I did. And since then, when a trail begins to narrow too much, I turn back. Because I learned something simple. There are places where the terrain is not the real danger.